Hello everybody, and welcome to the LJL Official Unofficial 2020 summer coverage. That was a bit all over the place. I am still your host with the most, Alex, otherwise known as Lexi by Mars Swan on the internet, and of course, I am joined by the elegant Alex, otherwise known as Nymera Hapgood, my color caster for the time, and the most honest, the most passionate man when it comes to player-by-player casting. That is Sam, otherwise known as Initialize, Hapgood, the Hapgood brother duo that are my casters for the moment. Gentlemen, it's a little bit of a blast from the past for us, as always, but we're gonna have some stellar games to be covering from the past, correct?
We do. We have the first 4 games of Week 2 coming up today, and they involve 3 2-0 teams and also the Hawks. But we do have a lot of very high expectations coming into this week, and I want to see how this shakes out.
It might not be a DeLorean, but this room is taking us to a hell of a point in time because we have got V3 versus Sengoku versus CGA. These guys kind of fighting each other out in various combinations to kind of prove who's really at the top of the table. And we might finally get some weakness exposed because a lot of these teams looked pretty good in their matches last week.
They did indeed. For you, dear viewer, the recap for that is we're going to first be seeing Sengoku Gaming facing off against the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming. And then we'll be seeing V3 Esports facing off against Sengoku Gaming. Third game of the day is going to be CGA, or Crest Gaming Act, facing off against V3 Esports. And to round us out for our last game of coverage for Week 2 of the LJL Summer Split, it's going to be the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks facing off against Crest Gaming Act. Sengoku, V3 and CGA, as you said, Nymera, all went 2-0, and the Hawks were the only team to go 1-1 out of this group. This is a pretty stacked group if we look at it objectively, right?
It is. It's worth noting that both Sengoku and the Hawks have faced DFM already, so that is also on their record. And Sengoku took a win from them. That's not something that CGA and V3 have yet to face. However, if V3 were to go 2-0 today, DFM would have to be looking at them as also top of the table contenders.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm also got my eyes a little bit towards the Hawks. This is a team that I've had quite hard to read. They had a game versus the Jesters that is really under strength. They had a game versus the DFM squad that was angry. That's 2 very polarizing games to actually get a read out of. So we don't really know where this new iteration of the Hawks actually stands in power level. And I think today might offer us a little bit more of an idea about where they're at.
Yeah, to touch on our coverage today and also on last week, the Hawks had currently hold our fastest game of this split. While it wasn't the most dominant performance over the Rascal Jesters, it has been the fastest one at 21 minutes, whereas we got to see the Jesters have maybe not an ideal game versus Burning Core and Detonation Focus Me, but it wasn't anywhere near as fast as either of those 2 teams. But some could argue, in my eyes, it was slightly more dominant. But let's touch on our first game of the day, and that is going to be coverage of Sengoku Gaming facing off against the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming. Gentlemen, when we saw this matchup in our spring split, it never went brilliantly for the Hawks. Now, I doubt they're going to do a repeat of their previous Week 2 back in spring, going 2-0 in that week. This is going to be a little bit harder. Sengoku are currently looking on form. Nymera, where do you see the power and the strength of Sengoku really coming from at the moment? As an overview.
A lot of it comes from the cohesiveness. I would really ask a lot of the viewers to go back and watch Sengoku's game versus DFM, particularly look at the minimap for the first 5-10 minutes of the game. After a scuffed level 1 where things don't go very well, the way that particularly Pyrian and Blank play around each other, knowing when they're resetting, knowing that if they reset now, they are safe, they get advantages, and they can scale up into a point where they get their first items. It's wonderful to watch, particularly as a mid laner myself. I feel Pyrian did really well there. And just knowing that they can get to a point where they can out-team fight even DFM because of the champions they have and the way that they're playing objectives, really stunning to watch. So for me, it's a cohesiveness thing for Sengoku.
Okay. And and Initialize For the Hawks, on their side, they had a pretty reasonable week, going 1-1, as you said earlier, making it very hard to read. Where do you currently have them on, like, a counter? If 100 is they're the best team currently in the LJL, and 0 is they're the worst team at the moment, they're probably going to have a repeat of Spring Split, whereabouts would you put them at the moment?
I'd probably stick him slap bang in the middle. They have an
50,
advantage over
alright.
some of the advantage over the squads that have got issues with substitutes and the rest of it. They
Good point.
have also got a mid laner who's just very mercurial. Dasher is one game brilliant, the next game going 1-5 on Aurelia, diving too far forward, losing a 1v3, a 3v1 rather versus a misfortune. That's the kind of player he is, and it kind of means that all eyes have to be on this man. He falls into the Mickey play style of I will carry this or I will int trying to, and it's going to be exciting to watch, especially versus a guy who's on form and on synergy with his jungler as Pyrion is right now.
Okay, so last 2 questions, one for each of you, but if you have any closing thoughts, feel free to interject at the end. Who do we think for the Hawks and against Sengoku is really going to be that point of importancy due to really depending if the Hawks are going to stand a chance against Sengoku? As in my opinion, I think this is going to be a huge uphill battle for the Hawks against Sengoku. Nymera, where are they going to be able to really eke out a victory? Is there even a way they can eke out a victory against Sengoku, maybe?
I think that if it's going to be anyone, it has to be Dasher. Of course, Sam talked about
doubling
it before.
down.
We saw, I think it has to be. However, he is up against Pyrion, and I think Pyrion has the best laning fundamentals of any mid laner in the LJL right now. I think that Arya is our best playmaker. Don't get me wrong. I think that Arya does things in team fights and skirmishes which no other mid laner can, but Pyrion himself.
Just smart.
He's smart. He's very safe when he scales up, and when he scales up, he knows how to impact fights. Dasher doesn't have that patience aspect to him all the time. We saw it with him on the Corki in their second game. But the first game, as we were talking about with the Aurelia, it just didn't work out. So for me, Dasher, you got to be patient. You got to get yourself a good matchup. Then we'll start talking. Apart from that, though, it's going to look very difficult for the Hawks.
Okay, and over to my jungle. I know you were going to say something there, but I'm actually going to bring it to you in your favorite position. And this is going to be the Blank Knight, who Blank honestly was our MVP of week 1. Go back and listen to our podcast on why exactly that was. One jungle and overall MVP. Facing off against Tussle, who we've had pretty high praise for in a lot of spots, and he's been around in the LJL for a little bit now. Where do you think the jungle matchup, the rotations, the 2v2 for both top and mid is going to come in, and maybe anywhere else you want to touch on initialize?
I think the advantage has to go towards Sengoku Gaming in that Pyrion and Blank look like a well-oiled machine. Their mechanics are on point. We talked about how the way that Pyrion and Blank are playing the map at the minute is frankly imperious. No one else is doing it the way they are at the moment. If the Hawks want to have a chance, they need to break that duo. That duo needs to not be functioning. And Tussle and Dasher, even if half of Sengoku's game plan is not giving opportunities, it's Pyrion making those resets, making the lane state very difficult to play against it because you just don't leave any options. Tussle and Dasher need to find a way to find something there, or I think the Hawks are going to run out of options real fast because Blank turns up to every other lane with Pyrion in tow, and they detonate in a 3 versus 2 or a 3 versus 1.
A Korean duo can be rather devastating. Gentlemen, will the Korean duo of Blank and Pyrion get there, or will the triple Korean triplets?
Trio,
triplets? Wasn't quite sure there. Dasher, Tussle, and Honey be able to find the solution. Who is going to win? I don't want the reason why, I just want the band-aid off. Sengoku or the Hawks? Nymera.
Sengoku.
Initialize.
Do I really need to say it? It's Sengoku. These guys look fantastic.
That's a 3-0. Uphill battles from the analyst desk for the Hawks. Maybe they can prove us wrong, or maybe it'll be more different. We're going to go straight into the champ select, and gentlemen, good luck to both these teams, and enjoy the cast.
Thank you very much, Lexi.
Pleasure to be back, of course. That means it's just us two again, dear brother.
Oh, it's so lonely.
So lonely. What
I
are
can
we going
even
to do
hear my
without him?
brother's voice sometimes. It's like he's here on the caster desk with me.
I am. I'm right here, man.
Okay.
Look at me.
Ah, would you like to introduce the teams then?
I would like to introduce the teams. Of course, we have Sengoku Gaming versus the Hawks this time around for our first game of our Blast from the Past. Of course, that means Sengoku Gaming will be on the blue side this time around. It is the ever interesting Appa Men in the top lane, Blank in the jungle, Pyrian, who we had so much praise for in that mid lane, and then of course Yutori Mayoshi and Enti, who we've not talked about so much despite being
I mean,
pretty
Yutori
stellar.
Mayoshi was our player ADC
Right.
of the week in week 1. Of course, on the red side, it will be the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming. In the top lane, Adamic coming in to replace Dasher, who role swapped to mid. He's currently there right now. However, in the jungle, it's Tussle, and in the bot lane, it will be Honey and Pooh. Bans are coming through soon.
They are, and there's a few I want to point out. Of course, the red side bans are no surprise. Varus Graves, don't generally leave those guys up. The other ones, though, for the blue side, Callista, Yumi, Set.
So Aphelios, either Aphelios and Ezreal, one of them will be left unbanned. I would imagine Hawks is going to, nope, they're not even going to ban, well, they are going to ban the Ezreal, leaving just the priority AD carry of the Aphelios open.
And we know Yutori actually plays a good Aphelios.
I mean, most people do. It's a very strong champion.
Right.
And the LJL
any ADC that doesn't play Aphelios at this point is a question mark.
The LJL has a lot of good Aphelios players.
We do.
So it's been locked in for Yutori Mayoshi. Presumably, the Hawks have an answer to this. Misfortune would probably be the option.
Kais has been seeing a little bit of a return.
Honey played that as well. I mean, you say it's been having a return. It's basically just for Honey. He's the one person in the LJL that's played it. A couple of people across the world
That's
have played
more
it,
what I was getting at, yeah.
But in the LJL. Honey going to lock in that Misfortune. This is not a pick this team has had success on in spring at all.
No, I mean, they found 1 or 2 wins very early on, but that's been about it.
I don't remember the exact win rate for Misfortune for the Hawks. I know that Appaman, however, has played 7 of his last games on Aatrox and has been taken by the Hawks.
We'll be curious to see where that man goes towards. Of course, we have started to see certain picks come out into Aatrox in recent weeks. Things like the Hecarim come to mind. Of course, Wukong, well, not a fantastic laning matchup into the Wukong, has those stellar team fights. And I do think Appaman might be indexing towards something like that. The Thresh is locked in to go alongside the Aphelios, and we know that duo is really good. Yep. You know, a lot of pick, a lot of disengage. Lantern's great for the Aphelios. The list goes on.
And one thing I love about seeing stuff like Thresh on one team and then Misfortune on the other is the somewhat pseudo map presence they have, because Misfortune has Strut, means that you have a free pair of Moby boots on your AD carry, means they turn up very quickly elsewhere. There's something which is a bit better than a little bit of a semi-global, though, and actually an actual semi-global. TF. It was banned twice versus Pyrian in week 1, locked in just now.
Well, Pyrian will be asking to pick a card, any card, and pull out a magic trick with some of the TF plays. It has indeed been banned against this man a lot. He is allegedly a fabulous TF player. We know what he's like with teleports and playing the map already. Giving him even more agency with a champ like the TF scares me, I think, for the Hawks.
What should scare him a bit, though, is that the Jarvan Misfortune combo has been picked against him, though. The Jarvan will be in the jungle. Not in the bot lane. We don't see AP Jarvan support, unfortunately, as much as I love that pick. If you get that Cataclysm onto TF with the bullet time nearby, TF is very squishy. Even with the Rod of Ages, he just gets dunked by that because he has no mobility.
No, mobility is not a good place to be. A gold card is one thing, but you don't want to be playing 52 card pickup after you've been cataclysmed into death.
Gotta pick stuff up by the bootlaces after that one.
Man, the puns are coming thick and fast. And we're not even finished with Jam Select. That's a bad space to be. Speaking of those bans, though, we have got, of course, Ornn and Nautilus off the table. Definitely indexing towards top laners a little bit at the minute for the Hawks, and some of those support picks for Sengoku Gaming.
Sure. So I'd imagine Leon is going to come out of Sengoku next.
Yeah, it would make sense.
Because that is the other CC support, which has worked traditionally well with the Misfortune. Going back to the Misfortune, the Hawks played 5 games of it in spring. They won 0 of those games. They are 0-5 with the Misfortune, even though it was a priority pick for them. That's partly due to the difficulties they had as a team, not just the pick, but it does kind of come across in that win rate. Lee Sin banned away, so Trundle's available. That's one thing.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Nidalee is too.
Nidalee too. Yeah,
well.
we know Blank plays a bit of Nidalee, where he was kind of brought into SKT way back when, partly because he could play the Nidalee.
We could potentially have Renekton and Nidalee on the top side for Sengoku. That would be. We've seen how you can punish a Aatrox with that. You know, Aatrox is pretty good on the weak side of the map, but not against the hyper dive duo of Renekton plus an AP AP jungler.
And especially because you can start the tower dive from such a long way away with something like an Italy. If you don't hit the spear, you can just run away. You don't have to be under tower. You don't have to commit quite as hard as you might on some other champions.
This would be different. This would be very different.
Wow.
So one thing we say about Pooh as a player is that normally he's very good on his peel support. Peel, his Braum is probably his best champion. Alistair being locked in, it's not a pick we've seen almost anywhere across the globe. I'm not sure on the global pick rate. It's probably quite low because of the amount of melee champions that can deal with him and disengage him quite well. It has been locked in though. It's another CC bot for the Misfortune combo. It gives you some hard engage options. However, doing that into a Thresh, doing that into a gold card can be very difficult. Rek'Sai has been locked into blank. It's locked in for blank, not in locked into blank. That's
horrifying.
Yeah. So that's been locked in. Heavy gank, gold card into Rek'Sai knockup, still a very strong ganking option into whatever mid laner is picked up. For the Hawks, of course, could be the Aatrox, could also be another pick for them left as well. Now Sengoku hovering the Camille.
They are thinking about. They've gone towards the Gangplank though, which is another global to team up with the TF. It's a good matchup into the Aatrox. Can play weak side. You can put a lot of pressure down with it. Appleman is also just a really good Gangplank. Just frankly, he's just a really good Gangplank.
So I've been suffering from a little bit of insomnia recently, and I've been writing postcards with different things about the League of Legends meta on them to
Do tell.
It gets it out of my head, so it helps me sleep.
What are your 2 a.m. musings that you wish to bring to this cast?
One thing which I love about Gangplank is that effectively he is the free get off a Baron card. Because
yes.
As soon as you're on Baron, particularly blue side Gangplank.
Get out of Baron pit free cards.
So blue side Gangplank is so good for a number of reasons. One, geography. You don't have a tri-brush to gank him through, which means that with your Jarvan, you have less options to start punishing that matchup, particularly when Gangplank does do all right into the Aatrox 1v1. And then, of course, the geography of the map means that if the Hawks wanted to start Baron at any point in this game, they have to go around the outside of the pit to get outside of it and back into their own side of the jungle, which means that a GPL, if it's put onto Baron, will force the issue, and it means that they cannot do Baron. So I love the GP here. LeBlanc was locked into the mid lane, though. We didn't talk about that. But I love that thing about Gangplank. Sorry, just a 3 a.m. using coming to fruition.
Well, you've heard it there, and I think it's worth talking about that. We'll go back over to the Hawks and LeBlanc in a minute or two. But if we kind of bring it back to Sengoku to have a look at their comp in its whole, I think it feels pretty elegant, actually, the way they can play the map. There's a lot of globals. It's I like the Rek'Sai with it as well. That Tremor sense to offer a little bit of battle warding for something like a TF who wants to push up in a side lane. You can hover either the GP or the TF and offer a little bit more safety, a bit more knowledge about what's going on. I really like that. I think Aphelios Thresh can sit in the mid lane while the GP and the TF are on those side lanes. I just think it gives a lot of room for Sengoku Gaming to utilize their really clean rotations and macro sets at the minute.
No, there's a lot of things to that, right? Rek'Sai is again one of the other postcards. Right, was champions that still have ways to play around zero vision. So champions that can face check well. That's Rek'Sai. Tremor sense. That's a great thing. If you have a Thresh Lantern, that makes any champion pretty good at doing that too. It doesn't make it infallible, of course, especially into an Alistair, especially into a Jarvan and Aatrox too. If you've got some damage around, you can still get blown up. But there are ways that Sengoku, even if they start falling a bit behind in terms of the pressure and vision, can start playing this map okay again. One thing which kind of predicates that, though, is that you can kind of let this Thresh wander off with the Lantern for someone. What that means is that Yutomi Ashi on the Aphelios needs to stay safe. Normally, I'd say Aphelios, he's pretty good in a 1v2 scenario. Against an Alistair, I'm not so sure about that.
Because you can force the issue.
Because you can force the issue and you can't flash away from the CC. Not really. Well, you can do if you're fast enough, but Alistair, it's hard to do that. So for me, what I'm going to have to see is NT being unlocked, Yutomi Ashi staying safe. If that happens, that will be helped by TF Ultimate, another thing which plays around zero vision, of course, gives you that Destiny Gate, the vision for everything. I love what Sengoku have done in terms of giving themselves these extra kind of X factors to get themselves scaling into a game, because they don't have to play around vision all the time. They have ways to mitigate that.
All right, so we've seen the kind of the global mindset that Sengoku Gaming are playing with here. Let's go over to the Hawks for a minute. Let's talk about the shot glass combo they've run with this Jarvan Misfortune. They've got Aatrox and a LeBlanc to add in a bit of extra damage. Pretty obvious, right? Throw the hard engage for an Alistair and a Jarvan and blow people up with your ultimates, I think, is the general consensus for that comp.
I agree. And the LeBlanc, if she manages to get ridiculously far ahead, Gangplank can't stay in lane against that. Aphelios gets one shot, one of the lowest base magic resists in the game. That's something which I do harp on about quite a lot on cast because it is relevant in a lot of these fights. If LeBlanc also gets a Banshee as Fel, that is another champion on my little postcard, which is champions that can play around little to no vision, because you can face check with your distortion, you can pop back. There are ways you can play around that, particularly if TF is stood there and Qs into gold card, you can pop that shield. But then there's still time to blink back to your original shadow.
Actually, I do want to touch on that because I know we were having this discussion last night, actually, about LeBlanc into TF. That matchup is something you've had a lot of thoughts about. Run me through a few of them. I know you think there's quite a lot of nuance in the way that lane plays out and the post-level 6 plays out as well.
For sure. So with TF's buffs, particularly he can take some really hard trades, particularly if Pyrion will be going for the AP TF version. You know, there's like a 0.9 AP ratio on the blue card now. It's pretty huge. When you have a Lich Bane on that as well,
blow people up.
If you're looking for a single auto trade and you have a blue card, it just increases your damage. This early lane can go either way in this mid lane. LeBlanc, we know how much burst she has, but she doesn't run Gunblade like her reworked self. I'm kind of glad that's gone. I do prefer.
It was obnoxious. It really was.
It was interesting in its own way. I just prefer this version of LeBlanc. It's a lot of character to it.
It's less janky.
So in the early lane, LeBlanc can absolutely put the hammer to TF though, because you're going to run an Ignite probably. You can run a TP, but you probably should run Ignite into this kind of matchup. Well, no, there are two ways to think about it. One, you can run the TP, just try and respond to the TF. But we saw
but you're going 2 globals versus 1.
For sure. And we saw in T1's game versus Dragon X, when they played a teleport mid lane around the Orianna versus the TF, even if you start channeling your teleport before the gate has been activated by TF,
gate's faster.
The gate is faster. It's like that scene in Halo Combat Evolved, which is one of my all-time favorite games.
It's a great game. In fact, I know what scene you're referencing it because I too love that game.
It's like, we got some enemies here. Wait, how'd that happen? Well, they've always been faster. They've always been faster, and TF is just the epitome of that. He's got that slip space technology on lock.
Yeah, he Gate is a really quick ability, and when you got the teleport as well, even then, like you're running a Gangplank as well, who will have a teleport and the Cannon Barrage. There's another 2 kind of globals in the champions. So like, there is never going to be time, or it's going to be very small windows rather. Let's be completely fair there, where Sengoku Gaming aren't going to have some way to respond. On the other side, though, the Hawks have a ways to force really damn fast. Really damn fast. If you can get a Jarvan ult into a Misfortune ult on 3 people before the teleports commit, you can blow those people up, and then those teleports complete, and it's a 5 versus 2, and you can blow people up. So there absolutely is options here.
I think my worry for Sengoku is that if they fall quite far behind, they don't have any semblance of a front line. If they pick something like a Trundle instead, they were just left unbanned. Trundle in place of the Rek'Sai potentially would have been a way to shore up your mid and late game, because the Trundle can probably walk into their team and be okay with that. There's no tank to really steal a lot of stats off. I guess a Death Dance plus Spirit Visage, if there was something like that from, well, no, it's only it applies to Magic Resist as well. But if there were a couple of tank items on the Aatrox, I know that Afterman loves to build that himself as much as Paz does too. Then sure, Trundle would have been a pretty decent pick into the mid and late game. But the Rek'Sai gives you this ability to affect this LeBlanc. You know what I was talking about? TF LeBlanc. That's a really fun 1v1 matchup. It's never a 1v1, especially with these kind of teams as well.
Pyrion and Blank playing together. Exactly. Never heard of it. Never seen it happen before. Dasher and Tussle. Nah, never been seen. 2019 didn't happen.
And once again, this is a TF. Well, this is a matchup for Pyrion where he will need to use his early reset.
Yeah, he will do.
You can get.
He's proven he can do it, right?
Sure,
like I know you had some serious praise for the way that Pyrion Zoe played into the Xerath from Seros, partly because of how he played the early waves, partly because of how he reset so damn effectively.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're resetting, so if you reset at a point where your jungler is off the map, I'm pretty sure you're on camera, by the way, so you don't have to do the camera.
Okay, that's really awkward. I thought we were being super secret, but we're on camera, so that's fine. So you just saw me Scooby-Doo sneak to open the door. It's really hot in here.
Sure, we can do that. I'm fine.
That's fine. That's cool. Well, you had that now. That was me attempting to be stealthy and instead looking like a Scooby-Doo villain, which I in fact am.
If they weren't looking at us, they would be looking at Katsudion and Lil Bell on the official stream.
It's very
true. Of course, very, very talented people in their own rights.
And of course, we are in the middle of a pause here, guys. It's not going to be a long one, so we're not waiting around too long. And producer is confirming we're on camera. So you did see that. That's just a little bit of we call it, I don't know, fan service the wrong thing, but it's that kind of flavor
behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like we're trying to be like LCK's content team.
Exactly. We are in fact that. It's not the Pog state, but it's the Scooby-Doo state. It is what it is.
The dog state.
The dog state. Yeah, that sounds about right. And actually we are officially into game onto the Rift here for our first match of our rerun spectacular here. The Blasts from the Past will be going on all day for today. We got 4 games to go through.
It's going to take 24 hours. Bloody hell.
I know. That's how hard we go through this all day.
That's absolutely nuts. I didn't sign up for that. Regardless, we
You
will
didn't?
be
It's
here.
in your contract, man.
How would 4 games go over 24 hours? That sounds like
That would-
sounds like season 2 CLG versus the World Elite.
Yeah, Teddy needs to step aside because I will show you AD carries that can spend interminable times clearing minions at Nexus.
Worth noting, Pyrion has gone for the spellbook on the TF.
Not a surprise, but yes.
I wasn't actually sure about what secondary runes you did take on APTF nowadays because it has changed so much. It's the Ultimate Hunter. That's a big one. You know,
I can see that.
The cooldown on Destiny Gate is pretty huge. It's monolithic. In fact, it's one of the longest spell cooldowns in the game, and the taste of blood on that as well means that you do have that extra sustain in the early lane. We know how we talked about Pyrion can get chunked out. Speaking of that, going to take a gold card trade, and it's going to go pretty even. You can see how there is damage available to the TF.
It is all about making sure you've picked the right card at the right time. Got to have your sleight of hand tricks down pat if you want to play this TF versus LeBlanc matchup. You can see the Twitter vote is heavily Sengoku Gaming favored, and I don't think that comes as a surprise. The Hawks probably improved a little bit, having sort of shown that very good game versus the Jesters, even if it was under caveated circumstances.
Sure.
But the AI bot at the minute, keeping it as a 50% win rate chances. This is, of course, just off stats. It's not off players. It's not off teams. It's how the champions perform.
Yeah, and I'm not sure exactly what calculations have gone into that, but it's never really given a decisive vote one way or the other from AI as far as I'm aware. Well, occasionally it does, but
it's also worth pointing, but we're on new patches, and a lot of these stats haven't had chance to form yet. So that bot will become more and more accurate as the season goes on, I believe.
Seeing a full red side clear from the right side, that's nothing unusual there.
Clears them really fast.
What this will mean is that Jarvan can potentially get to top side quicker than the Rek'Sai right now. Jarvan started on their red buff. And speaking of top lane, one thing which I really wanted to see from Sengoku is for them to keep up the similar kind of performances we saw in week 1, not on Aatrox, not on Ezreal in the bot lane as well. This does fit that bill. So, of course, the Hawks, not the perfect team. If this was the draft they had against CGA or V3 later on, V3, which they actually are playing later on, then we might be able to see something pretty big coming out. Barrelance out. This is a burgeoning dive.
Yeah, here we go. Blank's coming in. Can they find the knockup? The Infernal Chains are out. Flash does not get Aramik out of the knockup. Flash out from Blank. He gets out. First blood for Sengoku Gaming off a pretty clean dive.
I was pretty surprised when Afamen took aggro there. They both took the max amount of turret shots they were allowed to. They're well juggled by Sengoku. First death over to Adamic. First kill over to the Rek'Sai, which means that that Void Monster will be doing an extra bit of damage, reach that jungle item a little bit quicker in this game. Could be quite interesting to see where Blank ends up next. Now, it looks like Jungler's heading towards this mid lane. Tussle, see what he can do.
Pyrion's possibly on the wrong side. There's the chains coming down. It does lock down, but Tussle's not a fan of going under tower versus Pyrion right now. And it will just be the health bar trades across from both mid laners.
And actually, Dasher took a lot of damage.
He did.
Worth noting, Dasher did take the TP. Pyrion did as well. Of course, he has the spellbook, though. So what that means is that we're probably going to have, as we see some stuff.
This is some behind the scenes stuff again. This is what you get for having the joys of our bootleg broadcast. You get all these behind the scenes stuff. This is you too can learn to produce by watching our stream.
Okay. Oh no, apparently
they can't see. Wow. Okay. This is like we see things that you can't see. This is amazing.
Imagine talking about things that you can't see on the broadcast because it's only on our end. That's something.
That's amazing.
Yes. However, going back to that mid lane matchup, it is
our producer
Tussle once again has found his way a route into mid lane, but Pyrion is really balancing this wave pretty well. It's going to take a bit of effort to really push him under here. Rek'Sai currently in the area as well. This could be a good counter gang.
All right, the 2v2, we called it earlier. It was always a possibility. That's the engage coming out. The gold card comes out looking for the trade. Pyrion is flashed out. Now Tussle takes damage, but Pooh roaming up prevents or dissuades perhaps Blank from going further.
And very close run stuff. I have talked about Pyrion, particularly in those week 1 games, making himself hard to gank. He makes himself a little bit easier there, does have the teleport, he resets, but it is at the cost of his flash. He's not going to stop the recall, he just misses out, and that would have been a big turning point in this, meaning Dasher had no pressure for the next minute or two because he would have had an inopportune reset. He will have to use his teleport to get back to lane. Anyway, relatively even in that mid lane 2v2.
Relatively even. The 2v2 is one way of putting it. I think that's probably fair to say. The flash being down is a threat onto Pyrion, but of course, this is Dasher running the teleport, not the ignite. The kill pressure is a bit lower, but with Tussle and Dasher both having their flashes, that TF definitely kind of exploitable. there is room for Jarvan and LeBlanc to jump on the immobile nature of the TF. Spellbook, though, does mean there's a ghost and stuff like that.
The big thing for me is that Catalyst has been picked up now. Catalyst is so good for anyone's survivability in the laning phase. You spend mana and you get HP back. NC managing to find his way up to the mid lane. We did see Pooh earlier in that 2v2 come up as well on the Alistar, find that early roam first. I wasn't actually tracking that from the bot lane. We see Pooh once again finding himself unlocked on the map. Something which I was talking about, of course, was I wanted Aphelios to kind of be in this 1v2 state or 1v1 state and stay safe. Well, it's going to be that 1v1 state right now, and both supports are going to commit to that roaming playstyle and try and affect the rest of the map.
Yeah, they're definitely looking towards that. We can see the boots in inventory, know where they're going. We've talked about Mobius before. We know what that's all about. Do kind of want to bring our eyes up to the top lane as well. We saw the early sort of Q trades from the Gangplank parlaying Aramik down for the dive that came off, and that's kind of led to a 25 CS lead in the top lane. It's not even 7 minutes. That is a rough space to be in. We know how Apperman likes to play, namely just push as hard as you damn well can. It comes with its issues, but it has currently led to Aramik in a different trouble. And indeed, TFL is going to get this game through. Here comes the cannon barrage. Aramik in a lot of trouble. It's a 3 versus 1. He's healing up with the World Ender, but it's going to be nowhere near enough. Apperman gets a second kill. Aramik will die for the second time. 2-0 Sengoku Gaming. They'll trade it for the Cloud Drake, but this is what happens when the gate gets unlocked.
I was going to mention the Cannon Barrage as well, because that came up for the GP, and normally one of the things you do when you're facing against a global comp is you go to the source of the global. Well, it turns out there's another global to back you up as well. This time is both globals used on that top lane. Aramik goes down, had no flash, used the World Ender as well. Loses a pretty hefty wave to turret as well, had no teleport to get there, meaning this top lane advantage now getting pretty serious for the side of Sengoku.
It is.
Alarm bells ringing. Yes.
Kindle down to Sheen and Phage. That is a big deal.
Yeah, it's huge. Pyrion going to be pushing out this mid lane, hanging topside. Dasher good at ult though.
Here we go. Remember, Pyrion still no flash, stuck in that Cataclysm, no way out, no way to go. The cleanse is down, still goes down to Dasher, and the TF punished for the earlier summoner blown.
He was, and as much as I talked about Pyrion making himself harder to gank, that time 4-men pile on, no flash available. We talked about the Cataclysm in Champs like being useful versus the TF because he has no mobility to get out of it. It works like a charm, and Pyrion goes down for their first death of the game.
Oh, Aramik, he's on Vision. Vision in that. He's just gone over the wall and finds a Rek'Sai flashing out. But here comes the Void Rush going in. Apperman flashed over the walls, got the speed up with the Phage as well. Barrels in front. Infernal Chains are there. There's a lot of healing coming through, but it will only delay the inevitable. And that is a death number 3 for Aramik, who's just gone down again. He is down only, that's 30 CS nearly at this point. That's huge.
And one thing we saw in the Hawks' loss to DFM was they just put Aramik under the truck, really. They just threw him under the bus, and he didn't play weak side particularly well. Once again in this game, he's finding himself caught out. This time, he had the flash available. Blank follows. Apperman uses his flash to follow as well. This Aatrox is on absolute life support now.
You could see him sniffing out the danger. He's like, put this wall down. I think there's something here. I'm going to hop over this wall and get out of here. And he's just that 20 seconds, 10 seconds too late because Blank was already there. And that was unfortunate. It was, but it is putting the Hawks in a really difficult position because while Dash is off to a good start, up 15 CS, got a kill, got that one onto Pyrion. That's great. The Gangplank is 2-0-1, has what appears to be a 2,000 nearly gold lead over this Aatrox.
Look at the product of the camp onto Pyrion in this mid lane compared to the camp onto top lane onto Aramik. Sengoku are getting the much better end of this trade. Hook lands onto Tussle. Doesn't look like it's going to be followed though.
Yeah, throws up the shield from his W and decides that's not going to be enough damage to go through onto Tussle, who gets to back away. Pooh and Honey just roaming up towards that river, seeing what they can find, but nothing as yet. There's no second Drake available to see. And I suppose as we're coming up to about 10 minutes, just keep a quick check-in about where we're at with items and things. And of course, we have just mentioned the top 2v2 for both teams. That is a completed Warrior Entrance on Rek'Sai. That's huge. We haven't seen Apperman back a little while, but he's already got that Sheen and Phage, and we'll have close to a Trinity Force soon.
It's another TF ult.
And TF ult's coming as well. There goes the gold card. The fear came out briefly on the minions, but Aramik will die for the 4th time in 10 minutes. There will be pressure in the mid lane for some plates, but it will be first tower and a cannon barrage to prevent much more in the mid lane for the Hawks. And this Rift Herald was admittedly attacking the wave, not the tower.
Good heavens.
First tower goes down.
Good heavens, look at the time. It's top lane dive time again.
Well,
Arabic, it's time for your it's time for your appointment with the TFL. It's not going to be painless, I'm sorry.
oh man. Well, that's nearly 50 CS up there now. It is first tower. It is all plates. That gangplank is bank plank right now.
Oh, is he going to get stopped here by Tussle?
He might. He's taken a little while to recall.
Oh, he's out of vision.
Tussle's
He's
gone
out of vision.
away. He's made it out.
Aquaman!
Oh, Tussle. Oh, Apperman, that is insane.
You absolute soaz. That's a verb. That's an adjective now, by the way.
It is.
He's a soaz.
He didn't teleport out. He
Noun.
just backed. He didn't even teleport. He just backed.
Yeah, he just backed away. He's got himself a completed Triforce.
And double longsword and boots.
Okay.
That's insane. This gangplank is ridiculously fed. He will detonate anybody who dares sniff at him right now.
I will say, Pooh has been managing to get himself out on the map. He's managed to turn up mid lane a lot. And Pyrian, of course, did die to Pooh using his flash, teaming up with Tussle with the Cataclysm combo. The flash from Pooh still down. But we saw that. It was not available to punish Pyrian yet again. Of course, doesn't have the gate available. Did have the flash if he wanted to try and get away from that himself. 14 seconds until the second Drake of the game. It will be a Mountain Drake, and that will be contested over, I think. No cannon barrage. That's an important thing to know. But we do have those first items coming in for the solo laners of Sengoku. Those will be important in these next fights. The combat stats are getting up there.
I do want to point, of course, it's Rod of Ages. It's in, as you mentioned, for Sengoku, but it comes with a stopwatch, which I think will be significantly bigger for this, also around this Mountain Drake, which I think might be a fight, and this might be an option for the Hawks to finally pull the trigger on their 5v5 comp. Blank will start at the Mountain Drake, though, and the Hawks just aren't in position right now. NT is sitting over a ward, just trying to prevent any way for Tussle to get in, and they just won't be able to get there in time. Drake's gone, Blank secures it. Drake number 2 goes Sengoku's way, I apologize. And the Hawks won't be able to stack a second up in their kind of inventory, so to speak.
One of the larger beneficiaries of this series of plays as well is Blank. And he's going to be going to, 202, and he's getting a lot of gold towards what looks to be a Black Cleaver next. He has 2 AD teammates, which are not going to be building that item themselves. This is a very high value Black Cleaver in regards to Black Cleavers. Blank is currently the same level as Atomic, by the way. But Apperman has a 3 level advantage on that top laner. That is nuts. Blank will be able to 1v1 that Aatrox. There's a chance he reaches Black Cleaver before Atomic does.
I think he may well do, especially if he's continuing on the ganking path.
He has more CS! 10 more CS than Atomic.
Apperman's thinking about going for that top lane tier 2, but decides it's probably a bad idea. Backs away. There is still that pink ward in the bush leading to Krugs, but it's clearly a bad ward. It's failed to spot the back, and Apperman's like, well, don't need to touch it. It's actually on my team. It's a defective ward. It's a spy ward.
The undercover ward. It's
Double agents.
What I would do just to assert dominance is to buy another pink ward and place it just like 2 inches above it. 2 inches above it.
And then what you do is you kind of like send clips over Twitter to Aramik and Tussle. Just keep spamming. Keep spamming.
Oh, stand just used by Tussle. I was wondering if there could have been a fight with the Cannon Barrage available. Because, of course, the Cannon Barrage and Destiny Gate are available to Sengoku. Their globals are back up. We haven't talked about bot lane much, bluntly, not blatantly. Well, I guess it's blatant too. It is blatant that nothing is happening down here.
Yes, it is exceedingly easy to point out that it's been pretty much even CS, even stats. It's 0-0-0 for Utorimashi, and it's 0-0-1 for Honey, which is good news for Honey.
He managed to roam up into that mid lane to get that assist on Pyrian, which is it's nice. It's not the most consequential thing ever. It means that both of these AD carries are still going to be hitting their first item breakpoints at about the same time.
I think it's quite telling to me as well that Sengoku Gaming aren't playing around Utorimashi as of the last couple of weeks. They have been indexing more towards the mid and top lane. We saw it last week. It's how they kind of got their leads versus DFM, putting Ebby really under the cosh. And here again, we are seeing Utorimashi left on an island. It's not on the Ezreal this time, worth pointing out, but they aren't playing around it. Currently, they don't need to because he's hitting his item breakpoints. He's farming just fine. And if it does turn into a team fight, there will be an Aphelios with items there and available.
And to say that they're not playing around bot lane, that's something which DFM used against them to crush them in the finals. They played very well at shutting down Utoromiyashi and NT in that bot lane. And in their week 1 game versus them, they did not do the same, and it did not work for them. So potentially, the Hawks are falling into the same trap of letting this be a farm lane, letting it get to the point where Utoromiyashi can get so many combat stats and, the item break points on the Aphelios coming into these later team fights.
He will be given a fair amount of free time on this bot lane tier 1, though, and I think Honey has roamed up to the mid lane. Aramik is kind of hovering way back at his tier 2, like, please, somebody give me farm. I just want something. I'm 50 CS down. I'm an item and a half down. Somebody.
We'll ult for food.
We'll ult for food. We'll ult to die for a 5th time, potentially, because Blank is here again. We're looking as Honey and Pooh are walking around to protect this very anemic Darkin. There comes the bullet time.
No, that's Aramik's farm.
Not anymore.
You dick. Why would you do that, Honey? That's Aatrox's
that is the support mentality when your AD carry can't farm, goes, fine, I will farm now from the brand. And that's what Honey's
such a BM move. You just ult the only farm your top laner has had for like the last 7 minutes.
Yeah, up, down, touch the ground, puts Honey in the mood for food. The 100-acre bot lane beast is the dick and steals Aramik's bread.
That is just the worst feeling ever.
It's like Oliver Twist. Man walks up to Pooh and Honey like, please, sir, may I have a wave? No, you can't. Be grateful you're only 50 CS down. As Dasher takes a big barrel change to the face, and Appamed is a pretty beefy boy. He's kind of heading towards probably an Essence Reaver, actually. Yeah.
Well, it could either be the Yomus or the Essence Reaver. Probably going to be the Essence Reaver. Get up to that 40% CDR mark.
It's Appamed. It's clearly going to be Essence Reaver.
Sure. No, there is a chance it could be either thing.
Sure.
I've been relatively impressed with the gameplay. A lot of it has been Sengoku playing well around it, and then Hawks just kind of judging that they probably can't gank top lane after Pyrion unlocks ult and Tussle, and Blank is also ahead because Aramik is not in a position to exert pressure on his own in that lane, which means you have to do some quite telegraphed plays to attack that top lane, probably through vision because Appamed has got the priority there as well. So Aramik has very much been left alone on this island.
Gonna see potentially a fight here. NT's wandering around. The gate is popped. Can we see where this is going? Available. Here comes Pyrion, gets the stun, but Pooh burns. That ultimate does miss the pulverize, though, knocks NT away. The cannon barrage comes down and disengages, forcing a flash from Pooh.
Dasher still hanging
about
around.
It, yeah.
So that's cannon barrage down as well. However, now Pooh just cannot fight. Functionally, Alistar without ult at this point of the game is just a punching bag. He dies very, very quickly. What this will mean, however, is that with the Infernal Dragon being prioritized by Sengoku, Herald will be summoned mid lane for the Hawks. We're going to look to see if they can knock down the mid outer turret.
It's going to be pretty close. Dasher trying to prevent an easy access through the River Brush, and I think that mid lane turret does indeed fall there. So that is something. Sengoku Gaming still hunting, still looking for something. Blank lands the Void Seeker, but won't follow through. Probably wisely there. I think he would be ulting into his doom, I grant you. But chased away from the mid lane, and it will, in the end, be an Infernal Drake for mid lane turret trade.
And the Hawks probably got out with a fight. Well, not a fight, but got out with a situation they're relatively happy with that because they absolutely cannot fight right now. There is an Infinity Edge on the Aphelios, very bursty. There's also the Black Cleaver available to Rek'Sai. We're talking about Blank probably reaching an early completion of that. This is very early.
It is before Aramik.
And it is, and he has complete. Of course, you stop off for the Caulfields in that build on Aatrox as well for the early CDR and the early combat stats that Caulfields does get you. Very good bruiser item for top laners, which is why they tend to stop off before buying their first item if it doesn't build into it.
It wasn't either Essence Reaver or Ghostblade. It was a bloody death dance for Gangplank. Okay. And I suppose that will work on the barrels and on the Qs and with the grasp of the Undying as the keystone. That Gangplank is already going to be a little bit tankier than perhaps you expect. I think it's a bit more survivability. It's a bit more brawly. It fits into Appamed's playstyle. I think I'm okay with it.
I'm fine with that too.
It's also just a really damn strong item. It's just... let's just caveat this all with Death Stance. If you can build it right now, build it.
Yes, and there's another thing which is important about Death Stance. Unlike something like Ravenous Hunter, it heals for 15% of all damage done. That doesn't question whether it's AoE or not. There's no 33% effectiveness on something like a barrels or your ultimate.
Good Lord.
Yeah, with this size of an advantage, I mean, we haven't touched it in the gold. It's a 5,000 gold lead at 20 minutes. That is large. That is a large limit as well. And you're also doing that as the scaling composition. Aphelios outscales Misfortune in this current meta. With be able to pick up the Death Stance and Misfortune doesn't.
That makes a big deal.
That's-
She just doesn't survive as well.
She doesn't survive as well, and when you have to stand, it's the Jin problem from season 5-6. If you stand and you channel your ultimate while Aquaman has his ultimate available, it's very similar to the Bard ults, the Rumble ults back at that time as well. If you start channeling bullet time, you die because the cannon barrage is there. It slows you when you try and get on the retreat as well, and you cannot stand and take that much damage.
And the map pressure and jungle invades continue. Sengoku Gaming splitting the map up. Aramik has found his way to potentially sort of a way, but has to stick around his top tier 2 because he just can't walk forward. Has to be terrified of this TF that has a stopwatch, fully stacked rower, and a Lich Bane at this point in the game.
It's a very bursty TF. Very bursty.
We're looking at 2 items on this GP, 2 items on this Rek'Sai, a lot of crit chance on this Aphelios, who has gone double crit cloak to stack up and kind of index super heavily into the increased damage from the Infinity Edge. Misfortune and LeBlanc are kind of strong. They've got themselves an item, and there's a BF sword as well as an Essence Reaver in Misfortune's inventory. But that's kind of a best chance scenario.
Yeah. Particularly with the LeBlanc to the TF, you are. I'm just going to hold that thought because Blank's been caught up by Chain.
Does have to force the flash out of the Rek'Sai, who is not all that tanky to magic damage here.
Well, luckily only Dasher is that magic damage. And I was saying about that, Dasher, he's currently at 1.5 items to 2 on Pyrion, which means that the breakpoints are very much in the favor of TF. Speaking of the TF, found his way up into the top lane again. And I was going to say something. Yes, it's going to be like, okay, so the Hawks, how do they win a fight? Because what would a one team fight look for the Hawks? It's in Wombo we trust. Once again, we are looking at a team which has a lot of AoE combos. Aatrox, very good at holding his own once he does reach his iron breakpoints as well. Has reached the Black Cleaver, which is nice, of course. Reached, a good 5-6 minutes after Blank, but it is still there. Now he's on 30% CDR, which means that his Qs will be coming across a pretty large amount of time. If he hits all of those in the sweet spots, he'll be getting some good healing out of that. So, if you have the Aatrox running rampant, you have a Cataclysm, Bullet Time combo, and then a Distortion coming in over the top of that, there is a chance that Pyrion and Yutori may actually forget they have flash keys and die to that.
There is. There is also a world where this LeBlanc that, is behind an item, in fairness, and that's partly because there is the gold passive on TF, which just means he picks up more gold even if he is down
and GP. They have both of the gold stacking.
Yeah, exactly. And, they have got more turrets as the global goal there. There's a kill involvement, which have kind of kept TF in this. But, Dasher has farmed exceptionally well. Is 20 CS ahead of schedule. He's 240 CS in just now 23 minutes. That's pretty damn good going.
Yeah,
he could blow someone up. There is world where that LeBlanc finds the miracle play, and Dasher's kind of got the playmaking to do it. But there's a hook in now. NT finds it. Tussle flashing out. The cannon barrage in. Pyrion drops forward, gets the gold card, but the stopwatch burn from Tussle. It does not matter. Apperman deletes him with a parlay, and Apperman. Yeah, continue to go forward. The gold card does chase Dasher about 30 miles plus a double distort forwards. And that will be a 1 for none. And now mid lane pressure from Sengoku Gaming. Yutori actually will step up. Bullet time once again used to clear the wave. Feels like all it's been used for this game. As Blank solos out, hit the second Infernal Dragon for Sengoku Gaming. And it will put them up to Infernal Soul Point, which is a massive deal for this snowballing Sengoku.
And with the jungler dead, no one around to contest that Infernal Dragon, they do at least save their mid lane out of turret. That is important. You're against a global team comp. Having that map pressure from your standing structures is a very relevant thing. As we can see here, the Make It Rain does not spot out the hook from NT, which comes through, catches Tussle. The standard coming down just a second too late to save him. He flashes out. There's a cannon barrage to keep him slowed down and continually taking damage in that place there. Automatic TP's in, has to blow his flash as well. So that's 2 summoners gone from that top laner to a really bad fight for the Hawks.
Yeah.
At least it's not the worst case scenario. They didn't lose all their turrets. They didn't lose a Baron. That was one thing which I was going to say. Of course, we were talking about right at the start of the game. Gangplank has that kind of the Baron nope button where he sees you on Baron, he pops the ult, and particularly on blue side, it means that you can't really say much about that. The Hawks don't have that kind of option. They potentially have a Wombo being threatened, but when you have Chak from Aphelios, who has those turrets to zone people out of certain key points, you have Thresh as well standing guard, and you have barrels, you have cannon barrage. It's going to be really hard once Sengoku start looking at this objective.
I mean, if Hawks can even think about contesting, it's going to be really, really hard. We saw them try and get vision. I cannot blame Tussle for walking in there with the Infernal Drake coming up. They're thinking, well, can we fight for this? We want to do what our composition wants to do. I just want to get a ward down. I want to clear out this vision so we can maybe think about looking into the river.
Yeah.
He gets caught by a hook, tries to get out, uses the flash, uses the stopwatch. It's just not enough. And that's where Sengoku Gaming have just snowballed super hard. It is a full 100% kill participation for both the Rek'Sai and the Gangplank at this point. That's the kind of snowball lead that is here. It's 7,000 gold at 25 minutes. That's pretty obscene.
It is, and Appman was our top player of the week for last week, and there is a reason for that. He had some monumental Aatrox team fights, and once again was very active in this game. He has a 100 CS lead.
He has got the Flame Horizon.
He has the Flame Horizon, of course, with the help of the early jungle pressure. But that, I mean, who it is named after, Flame, of course. What happened with him and how he put his name on that particular event was that he'd get like 1 or 2 early ganks and then he'd just freeze people out of waves. He would then just abuse his solo advantage, solo kill people over and over, and get himself to huge CS leads. It's somewhat reminiscent of that. Bullet Time comes down once again to try and clear the mid-wave. It doesn't save the turret.
This is a problem as well. The wave clear here is misfortune. Pretty much. LeBlanc can dash forward, but it's risky versus gold card. And MF is short ranged as well. She steps forward to just do her usual auto attacks. She'll just end up getting blown up. So effectively, your safe wave clear is maybe a Dragon Spear coming out from the Jarvan. Or Dragon Strike, sorry.
Dragon Strike and the Demacian standard.
That's exactly, I apologize.
But then, of course, he's tank. So
yeah, exactly.
So that doesn't even kill backline.
No. So yeah, it's that the misfortune has got 2 items in the BF, so that's something, I guess.
And the problem with using that misfortune ult for wave clear is that I was talking about the Hawks don't have that Baron note button. You kind of do with the bullet time.
You don't want to be sat in there taking that.
You don't want to be. What the problem is with the vision, and then also being able to cancel it with with the threat of barrels, and also just not being able to stand in place with the cannon barrages up as well. It becomes very difficult to do that, but it is still pretty much your only option to try and peel Sengoku off that Baron yourself. With that gone, because you're continually using a mid lane, you don't have any other tools to achieve some of the more important things you'll need to around these big objectives. Especially, there's an Infernal Rift coming up in 1 minute 30. You'll need it for that.
Oh, honey, he's been hunted and it's going to be found. It was a sweet huck, but not sweet enough because there's Cleanse there. And that Golden Boy does manage to work his way away before someone other than Pooh gets a hold to save them.
Also worth noting, there is a Sterak's now onto Afman. He has Sterak's and Death Stance alongside the HP from Triforce. He's a tanky Gangplank. About as tanky as you can expect a Gangplank to be, actually.
You can see the timings on the snowball here. That is pretty damn rough.
I just realized, Sengoku, they're using 2 FPX skins. That's why they're crushing this game with their macro and micro advantages. That's it's pay to win. They've just paid to win a professional game.
Yeah. It's actually not Appamen playing, it's Gimgoon.
Skinnergy.
Yeah, it's Gimgoon playing there. That's who it is. And it's actually Crisp who's come over to the LJL. It's not NT anymore. Actually, I say that, but the FPX have been having a bit of a weird time in the LPL. They're not as dominant as they have been in past. The likes of JDG and Top Esports
doing pretty well.
Yeah, looking pretty good over in the LPL. It's been a fun split. If anybody's been watching over there, it's been entertaining to say the least. But before we start talking about other regions, we probably ought to be focusing more on
our own one.
Our own one. And like the other thing that tells me a lot about how the game's going is the complete network of tunnels that seems to be enveloping the map, at least on Sengoku Gaming side.
Speaking of those tunnels, Blank has a 2-level advantage. There is 10 seconds till the Infernal Dragon. The fight's probably going to go their way. The Smite's probably going to go their way.
Not again.
The Hook's going to go their way too.
Right. Remember, it's only on to Pooh. It's the second round gold. He doesn't even burn it. The Destiny Gate is burned. Here comes Pyrium. He's got gold card. Who does he hit? Looking like Pooh at the minute. Now that ultimate is burned, but it's too late. The bullet time isn't bad, but it's at the very edge. Appamen already slain, or rather already slays Pooh. The fight continues. A Blank gets another, and it's already a double in. 3 dead on the side of the Hawks, and there is little more to write home about for the Hawks in general. It was a bullet time. It caught some people. It wasn't enough damage.
It was a dissuasion bullet time at best, and it doesn't even dissuade the Infernal Dragon being taken.
That's it, Infernal Soul.
Infernal Soul's down. Sengoku sliding their way into a monumental advantage in this game. It is 10,000 gold lead at 30 minutes.
Trial by fire slayed the cow at the end of it, like as he walked away. The bullet time was great. It was over a wall. It felt fantastic. Just no damage, and everyone disappeared.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to talk over a replay of that as well, so we can see it happen in real time. Except it's not real time. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it's about the same as us because we're watching this replay anyway.
Indeed.
It's like a blast from the past
within a blast from the past, blastception. Here we go again.
So Ward in the mid lane spots the rotation coming out. Hook catches onto Pooh, and then you know where the majority of their team members are, and the fight is on. Aramek has to TP in. He teleports kind of into the east side of this, but again, it's just too little too late. The bullet time is on the retreat. It doesn't catch Aquaman. They don't manage to lock down anyone down inside of it, and that's where all of your damage is basically indexed into. The Hurricane Fire Cannon combo from Yutomiyashi, of course, we didn't catch up on that either. Yutomiyashi has himself 3 items in that fight. He shreds through people, as well as Aquaman having a ridiculous fight.
Hey, Aramek 0505 finds his way out for once. You can kill me once, you can kill me 5 times, but not a 6.
Yes, let it be known, no one kills Aramek 6 times. He has had a death almost on average, well, on average every 6 minutes. But then again, that's something which happened in week 1. They
There's a Spirit Visage on Gangplank, by the way.
What? What?
That's just for orange healing. It's for magic resist versus dash.
Can he 1v2? Well, okay.
So see if he goes to 1v2. The Chains misses. That's a good thing. That the Make It Rain is there. He throws a parlay out, and Dash is like, well, that hurt. I need to back away.
He leaves with
all of his health bar.
So he out trades in a 1v2, and his team get a turret cross mid lane. What?
Well, it's 120 CS. He could buy a Spirit Visage if he likes.
You know what?
He's just tired. He's just tired of being the isolated death leader in the league. He's deciding Aramek is now the man who must be the new guy to do it. Yes. Welcome back to the LJL, Aramek. We've missed you. Apperman certainly has as well. He's here to show you exactly how much.
He has 3,000 HP as a Gangplank.
That's just not okay. Honey stepping forward. He tried a auto attack and does no damage. Just healing straight back up. Tussle looking for a gauge, but I think it might be too little too late. Yutorame actually flashes out of the Cataclysm, and it's Tussle that leaves his own ultimate with a lower health bar. The Destiny Gate burnt again. The Inferno ult doesn't do all that much, but Sengoku's Apperman slays guess who? You're right, it's Aramek one more time. And the battle continues. It's the Nexus turrets under siege, and the Hawks have so little options remaining. Pooh is there at half HP. Maybe he can find an engage, but that is it. There is no bullet time. There is no hope as the Nexus turrets fall. Dasher dashes forward, finds nothing, and it will be in 32 minutes an absolute whitewash by Sengoku Gaming versus the Hawks.
They labored the point, but it was never in doubt. Sengoku now move up to 3-0 in their first 3 games in LJL Summer. Of course, what we're doing this split, we're going to take a minute to decide what we're going to talk about in the post game. So we'll see you very shortly. Stick around.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the desk. Gentlemen, we just saw Sengoku Gaming continue their domination of the league, frankly, and that they do not want to show any weakness to anybody. We saw a 100% kill participation from our top laner, Apperman, our MVP of week 1, and I think he wants to hold on to it, gentlemen. I don't think he wants to lose it one little bit. Run me through, Nymara, why he looked so good at so many different points.
I would like to present this in the form of a spoken meme.
Okay.
No, you can't do damage on Gangplank that has tank damage. Ha ha, Cannon Barrage, go bonk. That's basically just... he reaches, like... He goes Death Stand second. He goes a Spirit Visage at some point. He has
a stopwatch.
Yeah, and yet he still controls the entire map. You can't pick him off. They set him up really well in the laning phase. Don't get me wrong. They were like 2-3 early ganks onto Adamic, and Adamic, like we've talked about before, really didn't respond well to that. But no, really well played by Sengoku to set up Apperman for success once again.
Yeah, and Blank. I mean, that's what you were hinting towards, Initial Eyes. In the pre-game, you were like, well, he can play around top, he can play around mid, he's got so much potential. Depends what opens up. Aramic doesn't play weak side particularly well, and I think Blank knew that, didn't he?
He did, and I think it was also just Apperman using the grasp, using the parlay early on, levels 1 to 3, to just chunk Aramic to half HP, stick him under his tower. Blank turns up, they take all the turret shots they can between Apperman and Blank, get the kill, get out, put that 0, 1, and 0 Aatrox on the board, and then they start TF ulting up, and then they start going in with the Rek'Sai again, and the Bash brothers turned up, put the Aatrox so far in the dirt that Apperman runs away with it. He ends up 100% coup participation, he ends up over a Flame Horizon. Game's over.
What more can you really put outside of having a superb performance after a brilliant week 1? And I think you brought up a very good point in that TF ultimate, Gangplank has a global ultimate. Gentlemen, globals were the option for this team. Nymara, why do you think this was so effective, and why did they continuously just find picks all over the place, which just opened up the map hugely for them?
I think that Sengoku are a team that really knows their limits right now, just in terms of safety on the map, and in terms of, for want of a better word, respectfulness. We did see the one death from Pyrion after a 4-man pile-on into mid, but every member of Sengoku was pushing up and getting the resources they need to. They weren't shying away from getting farm when they knew they were safe to do so, and pulling the trigger very quickly when they knew a play was on. I mean, we saw like a hook land and immediately the gate was channeled. We saw the hook landed and immediately a cannon barrage was channeled. I think that Sengoku, all on the same page, very respectful, knew what they could achieve, and they did it with aplomb.
And that just shows the trust that they have in each other, because that can definitely be something where a team comp like this can make or break. Let's talk about this draft a little bit more. This is a unique perspective from them, a little bit of a change. Certain champions haven't appeared. Initialize, run us through why this is kind of cool to see them picking some other, or rather different champions for the first time this summer split.
So we have seen Twisted Fate really rise in priority across the world. To some success in places like Fake's been picking up the Twisted Fate, Nemesis picked up the Twisted Fate with his AD version. A little bit riskier, but we have some people really picking up, and partly the reason why is because with the Lichbane, with the empowered autos he's got at the minute, he destroys turrets, man. If you leave him alone with the double teleport he gets, you can just tear the map apart with him. And with a team like Sengoku Gaming, who at the minute are just 10 to 20 seconds ahead on how they are setting up for plays. Their vision goes down faster, it goes down quicker. The way they go through steps is efficient. They just end up in places before other teams have. And when you can then tear the map up, having already set up those steps beforehand, TF makes a lot of sense. And Pyrion is a historic TF player.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Nymara, anything to add to that?
I think that, of course, it is a new draft, and you know, you can say that, oh, it's only a couple of games into the split. Why is this important? Well, it's because I said in the draft, Apperman played 7 of his last 8 matches on Aatrox. You told him he actually played both of his week 1 games on Ezreal. I needed to see something from Sengoku which wasn't just crushing on the same picks. This is a very different style of draft. So just in a meta perspective from the league, this is important for teams looking at Sengoku to say, maybe they're not one-trick ponies.
And on the opposite end, we did see Honey pick up that MF for the sixth time, and sixth time, and now adding to another loss on this champion. Sadly, on Honey's professional career, that's 0-6, and that's kind of the story of the Hawks at the moment. Didn't seem to look very strong on anywhere, really. I'm going to open this up to both of you. What can they do? They look so meh, really.
So.
Do you mind if I just drop in early on? Like, actually, part of it for me is the fact that Sengoku Gaming were just quicker, frankly. Like, the Hawks just didn't pull plays off because they were late to a lot of things. We saw Aramik sniffing out a play in the top side, looking for Blank. Blank was already there 10 seconds ago. He dies again. Yeah. We look at Tussle looking for plays. Too late. Sengoku Gaming have read it and they're out of the play. Well, they're late to clear out the wave. Honey has to use the Misfortune Ultimate to clear out the waves. The Hawks being 10 seconds behind against a snowballed comp meant that they just didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we memed about the Halo meme, right? About, the Covenant always being faster. Like you know what you're playing against. You know you're playing against a cohesive team. And credit to the Hawks, they didn't capitulate. I think Adamic had a hard game. Mm-hmm. Honey looked fine on the MF, didn't really look out of position as we've seen in a couple of the other games, and Pooh was roaming quite a lot on the Alistar. We didn't talk too much about Pooh, but he had impact on the map. Tussle had basically no ganking options. I think a lot of this comes down to not just Sengoku out-drafting, but playing their draft to its limits and knowing that they are both safe and effective. So, hard luck, Hawks. You came up against a really hard comp. Bad luck next time.
Better luck next time, Hawks. You will get a next time, not too far, but it will be against Crest Gaming Act. But before we can see Hawks' second attempt, we're going to be seeing Sengoku's second attempt on the Rift. Can they go 2-0 back-to-back weeks, or will V3 deny them that? We're going to go on a short break here, and we'll be back with more action featuring V3 Esports facing off against Sengoku Gaming. Don't go away.